I'm wondering. That's true.
Hello everybody and welcome. This is the second Google Hangout session of the Read for Pixels second annual International Women's Day edition of the Read for Pixels campaign. My name is Anisha Kanesivam. I'm the moderator for this session. Let me tell you a little bit about Read for Pixels. Through Read for Pixels campaign, the Pixel project is collaborating with 11 award-winning and best-selling female authors to raise awareness about violence against women and to raise funds for our celebrity male role model Pixel Reveal campaign. We aim to raise $1 million. These funds will be shared between the National Coalition Against Domestic Violence and the Pixel Project, so we can all keep up our efforts to end violence against women. So I'll be telling you a little bit more about the Read for Pixels fundraiser and all the exclusive author goodies that we have a bit later. If you want to find out more about the Pixel Project, you can go to thepixelproject.net. So today for this session, we have a very special guest. It's Alexandra Sokoloff, who is a best-selling author of the acclaimed HUNTRESS FBI series and a lot more. She is here for a live discussion and a Q&A session. And here she is. Hi, Alexandra.
Hey there.
So thank you so much for being here with us today. We're really glad to have you.
I'm always thrilled to support this cause. It's very important to me.
Okay, guys, so Alexandra has been really kind and generous, and she has given us a lot of awesome goodies to share with you and to share with all our donors. And I will tell you about the goodies right now once I get my notes up. Hold on, here's just a second. I seem to have lost them. Okay, here we go.
But they're really good.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Okay, here we go. So she's donated 3 things, I guess you can say. 2 of them are special goodie bags, which feature 7 of Alexandra's books. So these include the first 3 books in the HUNTRESS FBI series in paperback, and 4 of her haunted thrillers in hardcover. And all of them will be signed by Alexandra. So there's 2 bundles, one for a US donor and one for a UK donor. And the second special bundle that she has going is for authors. This includes a signed copy of Alexandra's workbook, Screenwriting Tricks for Authors Stealing Hollywood, plus a 30-minute Skype session to discuss one chapter of your work in progress or any other writing issue you want to talk about. You have 30 minutes to discuss it with Alexandra on Skype. So those are amazing goodies. I'll tell you a little bit more about how you can get your hands on them. I'll talk about it a little later in the session, and about how you guys can help and donate, help the cause to end violence against women. Okay, so let's get on with it. So I did say we're having a live discussion in the Q&A session. Now you guys, whoever's watching us, can participate. There are 2 ways to do this. You can type your questions into the Q&A box in Google Hangouts if you're watching on Google Hangouts. I'll read the questions out to Alexandra. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can type your questions in the comment section below the video, but you have to be signed into Google in order to do this. All right, so that's it for my intros. And so, Alexandra, let's start with our first question. And let's talk about your books. Your stories are always populated by lots of female characters of various types. Let's start with a very general question. What is your definition of a strong female character?
Oh, my definition of a strong female character. I don't know any other kind. I honestly don't. So I don't know what the problem is in writing strong women, because that's all I know is strong women. And the ones who are not acting strong in a particular moment is probably because of trauma or some intense danger. And but from my own family, my mother, to every woman that I ever went to school with, my favorite teachers, women are amazing, and I think you just have to write them as themselves. The strong women that I know are all women, and so it's funny that that's even an issue. I sort of agree with Josh Weedy there. Why wouldn't you be writing strong women?
Right. Yeah. And like you said, you were saying about the women in your life. Do you get inspiration from people you know to write your characters?
Well, yeah, people I know and people I look up to. I'm particularly interested in women who are acting politically and morally to change the world. I think that people who stand up for other people, that's my definition of a hero, whether you're male or female. So people who are like that definitely are inspirational to me. People who work in social services, people who work as teachers, lawyers who are changing the climate for women and children, because it's not just women who are affected by violence against women. It's all of the kids, all our children, in the entire world. So I think people who focus on being good role models and changing laws that are discriminatory, those are the real heroines and heroes.
Now, like you just said that why wouldn't you write a strong woman character? But then a lot of people don't, you know? Yeah. So, but why do you think it's important for readers, the audience, to see characters portrayed in this way, like strong strength?
Well, because anything else is false, for one thing. I think anyone who is writing weak women is not paying attention to the way that the world really works. So I'm afraid that weak women characters come mostly from men who are sexualizing women and only portraying one part of what a woman is. And believe me, I love having sexy women in my books. Sex is a very important part of everybody's lives. I want to have complex adult sexual relationships and really explore those, but only showing a woman who is, I don't know if you have seen the producer who tweets descriptions of the lead female characters from the screen he actually gets, and it's just like the smoking hot, blonde, she's jaw dropping. These are the men writing about the female lead, right? And that's, once you start with that, where do you have to go? That's a Barbie doll. That's not a real person. So yeah, little girls don't need to be told that women aren't like that, but when they're little. But then I think that we really poison middle schoolers and teenage girls with fashion magazines and these portrayals, mostly by male directors and writers, on TV and books, all of these things that are showing girls this very warped idea of what they're supposed to look like for society, and that's craziness.
Yeah. Okay, so let's zero in on some of your characters. One of your major characters is a female serial killer that we first see in Huntress Moon. She is unique just because she's female serial killer, but she's a really interesting character. So, okay, first of all, what inspired you to create this character and create her as a female serial killer?
Well, it's interesting, and without spoiling the books totally, it's a major question of whether she is a serial killer or not.
Yeah.
That always is from the beginning, because the whole inspiration for this series was, I was a screenwriter for years before I wrote my first novel. And I did several projects for Hollywood that were about serial killers, and I did years of research. It turned out, because I did so many screenplays, and then this series. I've interviewed lots of profilers. I've studied every FBI textbook on the subject, studied real-life examples, and there aren't any female serial killers. It's a completely different syndrome when women kill en masse. You have women who kill in numbers. There are what they call the Black Widow, who kills husbands or mothers for insurance money. You have the medical, the angel of death, that is a medical professional that has bizarre control issues. They might kill out of some warped sense of mercy, or because they want to control other people. There's Munchausen by proxy, which a lot of mothers make their kids sick or kill them for their own narcissistic needs. But serial sexual homicide, which is what we think of as male serial killers like Ted Bundy and Ed Kemper, Green River Killer, Jack the Ripper, they're really serial rapists who kill their victims. That's what it is. And it was very interesting to me when I started studying and started talking to profilers about it, that women really don't do that. And I thought that was fascinating, why that doesn't happen. And it was a really good door to open and explore issues of male and female violence. So both, why do men do this and women don't? And how can we use that to deal with crime in society? And also, on the other side of it, what would make women kill? And believe me, I know a lot of reasons that women should be killing. I wanted to put those two things together and really look at gender differences in crime in the context of a really, really riveting thriller series with characters that people hadn't seen before, and especially this Huntress character who is killing. She's been killing mostly men for years, and nobody's caught her. And she is, her background is amazing. It's very mysterious and layered.
So, would the story or the plot have been completely different if this character had been a male serial killer?
Well, yeah, and I wouldn't want to write something like that. I am really not interested in getting the mind of a male serial killer. It's really pretty boring. They rape and torture. That's what they do. They're not geniuses. They don't play cat and mouse games with the cops. They're not masterminds. They are sadists. And I don't want to be in that universe. I don't like reading books like that. I don't like watching movies like that either. I know it's out there. I think all women know that kind of violence is out there.
Right. Okay, speaking of violence, your story is like this this Huntress Moon and the subsequent series. It has some elements of violence in it. How do you, as an author, find a balance between showing violence as an integral part of the story and not showing it just violence for its own sake?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and authors struggle with this all the time. Because some of the books deal with issues of sexual violence, rape, and sex trafficking, human trafficking, I don't show those things. I never show them real time. I don't show characters being raped. I don't want to see it. I think we all know that rape is an atrocity. We don't have to see it. So I concentrate on shutting it down, shutting sex trafficking groups down, or concentrating on the victims and how they are not served by the justice system. And so if you create real victims instead of exploitational sex toys, which is most of the time in torture porn is one of my biggest loathings, and I think that there's a lot of it out there these days. It's easy not to sexualize violence. Violence is horrific, and if you're presenting it in a sexualized way, you're already creating the problem. You're not only not solving it, you're adding to it. So I never sexualize violence, and the only time I really show violence, it is to someone that we want to see die, and that my killer does not get off on it. She eliminates the problem and moves on, but it's not for her own sexual satisfaction. And I think that when you see torture porn, it's not only the author who's getting off on it, but who is presenting these scenes so that other people get off on it. And that, I think, is wrong.
Right. Yeah. Okay, so you did mention that your female character, this killer person, she violence is like a means to an end, I suppose. She basically does what she needs to do, and she's resourceful, and she knows how to use her skills to get what she wants, and even to the point of seducing somebody, for example. Do you think that it's important to portray a female character who can do this, to use what she has to get things done, without being given labels such as bitch or slut or bossy or pushy, which is something that a lot of pop culture does to women?
Well, I kind of like the word bitch. I reclaimed it for myself a long time ago.
I totally understand.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly think it's an empowering term if you take that power. Why not be a bitch? I can be a bitch and enjoy it. So I think sometimes you have to be a little subversive about confronting patriarchal culture. And not only have I taken the word bitch for myself, but so that there's I don't find any negative correlation between that word and who I am anymore. And you can do that. You can practice that, really. But in the books, I have a feminist organization that calls itself bitch, sort of like anonymous, a cyber group, and they just call themselves bitch. And I want people to kind of think about that it can be an empowering term instead of a negative term. You can do that with really anything that someone uses to insult you. Words are interesting. You can unpack them. You can demagnetize them if that makes you feel more in charge of your own life.
Yeah, and do you think that doing that in your books and in pop culture, in like TV and in film, is important as well, to spread the message basically to women that you don't have to live these negative labels?
Oh yeah, I absolutely do, and it's always an uphill battle, because especially not so much in books where women are half of the writers and way more than half of the readers, but because I worked in film and am working in TV again because of the Huntress series, developing that for television, we are just so outnumbered in media. We really are, especially directors. So a lot of the TV and film that we see is male generated, and it's the male gaze. So I think that every time we can, we have to either directly confront that or be subversive about it in some way, so that you're presenting a female point of view within a male world. And that's a fight. You can get fired for doing that in Hollywood. And it's yeah, and I have been. And I have been. So so you have to find ways around it sometimes, depending on who you're working with. Or you have to, as I'm doing now, start with people that you really trust to not undercut the world vision that you're trying to work with.
We have one question that just came in from Regina, and she asks, what do you think about TV shows, for example, Game of Thrones, that are filled with violence against women, do you think that they contribute to rape culture, or are they reflective of it?
I think Rape of Thrones, which is what I would prefer to call it because that's what it is creating rape culture. I really do. I think it's, I refuse to watch it. I stopped watching it a long time ago, and I've given a lot of my opinion on this in news articles and blogs. I think it's doing horrific damage for women and men. It's using rape not only as entertainment, but just wallpaper, gang rape. It's unbelievable that they're being allowed to get away with that, honestly, and I think they should be confronted with it whenever possible. And it's so not necessary. You take an equally violent show, The Walking Dead, where I know that my favorite characters, my female characters that I love, are not going to be raped in front of me. You can tell that the filmmakers have made that decision not to play it that way. It's not that rape doesn't exist in the zombie apocalypse, but we are not forced to see it sexualized. It's night and day. You don't have to portray rape like that. Those are filmmakers deliberately choosing to pander to a very low common denominator.
Yeah, it's just too bad. And like what you were saying, it's this culture of the male gaze and you know, these things being in male hands, and that's why we get things like this. And and the most recent thing that came out that's been all over the internet is the Ghostbusters film. And the trailer has been out, and suddenly it's all women, and there are all these horrible comments in YouTube about, oh, why are you watching women and things like that. Do you think things will ever change?
Wow, I have to believe that they will, and it's funny. It's just 10 years ago, nobody believed that marriage equality would be the law of the land in the US and so many other countries, you know. But somewhere along the line, we reached a tipping point that made that equality possible. And it happened, I think, partly, not completely, it was certainly activism, it was political activism, but it was also activism going on within TV and film where major characters in TV shows that we loved were gay. We were seeing their lives together and rooting for them. And they were in our living rooms. And I think that really helps. So the more that we can put those kinds of models of a truly equal society in front of people in the form of emotional characters. I think The Walking Dead is really helping to portray strong women, you know, and what happened with Carol on that show, to go off on a Walking Dead rant for a second. But this is great. What?
No, go ahead. I totally understand about Carol. She is one of the best characters, and she developed so much throughout the series.
She started as a battered woman, you know, just completely subjugated to her husband and terrified of him. And now she's just awesome. Michonne, awesome characters. So, and this is the most popular television show out there. That matters. It matters that we can go to graphic novel store, you know, comic book stores and get those characters as dolls. Those kinds of things matter. That boys can play with dolls that are strong female figures. It's ridiculous that I have a 3-year-old nephew mad about the Avengers, just crazy about them. But when we buy him Avengers stuff, I have to glue Black Widow into the lineup so that he sees her there. You know what I mean? These things that the toy companies put out are all the men and not the women. So I have to create Black Widow in that Avengers lineup. That's wrong. What is that saying to girls and boys? So it's things like that that we have to start. We have to start really early. We have to start a lot earlier than we're really thinking about. We have to start with those Avengers characters for 3-year-olds. That we're seeing equality between characters, you know, gender balance in characters. That we're seeing strong characters in Star Wars, and that we can get daughters and sons that figure. It's just, it's craziness that we have to, we're still fighting these battles, but we still have to fight them.
Yeah, it seems a bit ridiculous, but it doesn't make sense really. Yeah, so you said we have to start young, and there are, okay, so like for example, your novels, there are obviously men who read stories, read your novels and read stories such as your novel. How important do you think it is for male readers to see experience stories that feature male characters who treat women with respect and how they should be treated?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's pivotal as well. And I actually am running out of battery here, so I'm going to have to get my partner to come help me.
Oh dear. Okay.
Just 1 second.
No problem. Gosh, that's funny. Okay, guys, while we're waiting for Alexandra to come back, let me just tell you that here I am. Okay, so you're listening to Alexandra Sokoloff, who is an award-winning author of the acclaimed Huntress Moon series, the Huntress Moon FBI series. We're having a discussion about violence against women, the way female characters are portrayed in pop culture, and all kinds of things that have come up. So whoever's watching, you guys can join in the discussion by typing in your questions in the Q&A box if you're listening on, if you're watching this on Google Hangout. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can type your question down below in the video in the comment section. And okay, here's Alexandra back, so we can keep the discussion going.
Sorry about that.
Hi.
Power there. Okay, great.
No problem.
Okay.
Yeah, what you were talking about, yeah, characters, male characters that treat women with respect, and how important it is for men to see this.
Well, and once again, I can't believe we even have to have this discussion. My male friends are the greatest guys on the planet. I love them, and I'm so within my own world. That's all I know. So it always shocks me to go into a situation where men don't feel that women are equal and that they don't treat them with respect. It's just partly, I went to Berkeley, where we're more activists that way, and I think more more realized men go to more liberal institutions. I just think that that's the way that it tends to play out. We don't have a big frat culture at Berkeley, and it is marginalized, so they're not being taught those horrific values. But yeah, I think my FBI agents, I have a 3 men, 1 woman team on the FBI team that is pursuing this thing. And the men are incredibly moral, thinking human beings. And the interesting thing, I think, is to watch them realize that why this killer is killing is justified, and watch them wrestle with that moral dilemma that she is a fugitive and she is a criminal because the justice system is unjust and criminal. And she's addressing a problem that they see as lawmen, and they find it more and more difficult to say that she's wrong. And this comes up on a reader slowly. they're really reading it for the thriller and the procedural part of it. And then they're starting to realize that there are some moral questions being asked that invite and possibly pressure the reader to make some of these moral decisions themselves. And I think it's very interesting. I do get a little pushback, but it's such a small percentage of men. Usually, I think that I have about equal female and male readers, judging by my reviews and just fan mail. And men love both the FBI investigators and the killer. They get it. So either I'm attracting all the great men to my books, or there are many more great men than we give credit for. I think that the percentage of violent men is really, really, very small, and they're serial offenders. You see that in studies about rape and domestic violence. It's a very small percentage proportionately, but we have to address that issue of what do we do about the violent men? Mm-hmm. Not tar the entire male gender with the same brush, because it's simply not true. But ask those good men, which is the vast majority, to help us deal with the other part of it. And not try to defend violent men because they're men, realizing that they're different and possibly need to be medicated, whatever is going to stop it, But I used to teach in the juvenile court system, and I taught all boys most of the time, gang kids mostly. Those were not bad kids. They were great, I only met one that I thought was seriously unreachable. And some of them were violent offenders, but it was because of their upbringing and because they weren't getting the help that they needed. So if we really concentrated more, again, on kids, so that they're not growing up in abusive homes, so that they're not learning that as a life pattern, we could change this culture. But we need to start with violence in the home, I think, and violence on the street.
Mm-hmm. Right. You're totally right. And we need both men and women working together to make the change, definitely. Okay, we have a few more questions. So the first one is, says, Joe Hill said that telling the right stories is important in helping dismantle the culture of misogyny and sexism. How do you yourself balance telling a compelling story with sending out a message about gender-based violence without being preachy?
Right. Yeah, you can't be preachy. And I think the thing is, before I wrote the Huntress series, I had been a screenwriter for 10 years. And before that, I actually started in musical theater. So that's as entertaining as you can get. So you have to really hone your craft to be able to start layering in the moral messages that you want to get across, because you can only change people's minds through character. They have to put themselves into the character. It's all about empathy, and that's been shown in lots of studies about violence, particularly, that it's not enough. People will space out statistics, but they will care if you can concentrate on individual stories. So I try to be sparing about the statistics, but get them in there in the context of, if my FBI team is talking to a social worker, then she can explain, or he can explain, why child prostitution is on the rise. And not that child prostitution should even be a word. It's sex trafficking. It's sexual slavery. But I really honed my craft for a long time before I started tackling those issues head on. I always created strong female characters within that base and show them fighting evil. But I think I actually started as a horror writer, and I wasn't dealing with straight crime at first. Now I can really deliver the thrills of horror. I think the evil of what sex crimes are and what crimes against humanity are, but still have the chills going on in that entertainment sense of, you know, the lights on kind of thing, that you're biting your nails while you're writing. And I'm always very aware that my first contract as a thriller writer, my contract with the reader is thrills. So that has to be that adrenaline rush. I know how to create that because I've spent years learning how to create that. And so I've been able to hide the morality of it within just an entertaining story.
Great. And that kind of brings us to the next question we have, because you mentioned writing characters and strong female characters just now. And so the question is, some authors are pushing back against the term strong female character, as they feel that it doesn't really adequately describe a really great female character. So what is your opinion on this term? I know I asked you just now, but yeah, what's your...
Yeah, that was the very first thing that you asked.
Yeah.
But what does that mean? Why should you be saying that? It's ridiculous. It's just like you want to portray women as they are, which is complex and layered and passionate and driven and moral.
A real person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So my next question is, now we've been talking about, I just asked you a question about the relationship between the male characters and the female characters in books, and how important that is to portray a good one. What do you think about relationships between female characters? Because a lot of the time, it happens a lot of times that female characters are always sort of pitted against each other, and it's always a fight of like who's the best. But what do you think about respectful relationships between female characters in novels and in film?
Well, I am always baffled when I see that. That again, I really think that is men imposing their vision of women on that is absolutely not true. My experience of women, my experience of female friendships across the board is not about bitchiness, and is not about, you can have competition with other women, but the support that women give each other is phenomenal and constant to me. And so portraying women as being at each other's throats or undercutting each other is so not my experience of reality. And because I worked in Hollywood and saw how these things were massaged into not the vision that was originally there. There were so many times that I would be working on a script that would have several women characters in it, that I would be told by executives and producers to combine them all into one character, that there could only be one female character. So 3 strong women who interacted together would be combined into one woman, because there could only be one woman and then a full cast of men, which is that is such a warped portrayal of reality. It's not even funny, but it happens all the time. So
why do you think it happens though? I mean, yeah, like you said, it's not real, but why do you think it still happens?
Well, there's lots of reasons for that. Some male studio heads say that women can't open movies, that they can't. The opening weekend, there's no female stars that will bring in enough money to make the movie viable. And that's bullshit. You have a good woman character, you have a great script, you have, you know, it's just like anything else. If you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
Obviously, The Walking Dead has no end of strong female characters, and it's not hurting that show in the slightest. Deadwood, amazing women characters. Never pulled punches about sexual violence. It was shown in its absolute ugliness, you know, as you would show in the period. But there was no way that you were getting off on our favorite characters being hurt that way. It's not necessary, and some people get it, and some people don't. And the ones who don't are doing us a lot of damage. And I think they need to be confronted more on every level, whether we work with those people who just don't get it, who need to be taught, or if Game of Thrones is making you crazy the way that it is me, then in every way that you can, don't let people get away with saying, oh, but I like the show. You know, well, it's not that bad. It's not that bad, really. You know, it's pretty bad. And it's a struggle, and you get tired of it. It's hard to always carry that banner, I think. But I'm very privileged to work in an industry that dreams for other people. It dreams for the whole world. And we can't take that lightly. You know, if we are given the privilege of working with fiction and characters like this, we have to be true to reality and the morality of the universe. It's not just entertainment. It's not.
Entertainment should reflect real life, really, because that's what people want to see, right?
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
Don't do damage. You know, it's like the doctor's motto is first do no harm. Well, why shouldn't that be entertainment's motto too? Because we're shaping kids with everything we put in front of them.
Yeah. Which brings us to a question that the audience has asked. So the question is, we are seeing what's called the Hermione effect, which is when in pop culture, young adult books feature a lot of capable, complex female characters, young female protagonists. For example, Katniss Everdeen. So the question is, do you think this is a trend or indicative of major change?
I do think that this is indicative. I don't think we're going to go backwards from Hermione and Katniss. I don't, which is exciting. But we have to keep that. Those two books, and also Twilight, which I have more problems with in terms of female portrayals, but it got a lot of teenage girls reading. And now they're voracious. Not only are they voracious readers, they are writing at younger ages than we've ever seen before, and publishing. I mean, I wrote at a young age. I think a lot of writers start at young ages, but we didn't have the access to publishing that these kids have now. And Amazon is doing a kids author program. You know, they're just making it possible for children and teenagers to go straight into publishing, and they're doing it. Some of my friends' teenage daughters are doing this, and younger than teenage, which is fantastic. So the more girls we have writing, the more critical mass we're achieving, that we can't go back. We can't go back to these. But that's in the U.S., and we have to make sure that other countries are feeling this ripple effect too, and that we are not ignoring people that are virtually in slavery in other countries, women and girls, because until everybody's free, none of us are free. That's just the truth of it. It's all of us in this together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right on. Okay. My next question is, yes. One of the major reasons that violence against women exists is gender inequality, obviously. So, do you think that there will ever be a time when there is complete equality between genders, and so there won't be violence against a person just because she's a woman or because of their gender. Do you think that will ever happen?
Well, I think we have to make sure that the planet doesn't implode through climate change too.
Yeah, assuming we're all still here.
We kind of have, I want it to happen in the next 10 years, but realistically, we've got a longer trajectory, so we have to make sure that we don't blow us up or eat ourselves up as a species as well as contributing to equality. But I think that the more women we have making decisions, the less violence we're going to have across the board, wars and everything, because it's stupid. We don't have to act that way anymore. That's a really primitive way of acting that I don't believe would happen if we had gender equality, because who would want that kind of world? You know, we have to shut down the most violent people in our species. I think is what we need to do, is make sure that those aren't the people making decisions, and those aren't the people being soldiers and going out and committing these atrocities. So, do I think it will ever happen? I can't see it happening in my lifetime, which is a sad thing to say, but given the fact that we're dealing with changing the entire world. But we have to throw out some of these really damaging archetypal scenarios. You know, we have to confront things that are no longer serving the human race. And without attacking religion specifically, people who are religious should be confronted about patriarchal rules in Scripture. There is no commandment against rape in the Bible. The 10 Commandments does not have a commandment against rape, against torture, against child abuse, against spousal abuse. Well, so why are we still seeing these crimes? Because a significant part of the world does not consider those crimes. So how do we deal with that? When people want to believe in their faith, but they are looking at a document that is a patriarchal, it ignores ignores actual atrocity, because women were chattel and children were chattel, and people could have slaves, and you can't use that as a moral compass anymore. We shouldn't have been using it ever, but we certainly should not be using that as our morality now. And that's a hard thing for people to look at and confront, but those are the kinds of analyses that we have to do about our own moral systems and our own social systems.
And change is, I mean, there are people fighting for this kind of change, definitely nowadays. Now, but which brings another question to mind, which is the word feminism or feminist has got a bit of a bad rap sometimes. If people have this wrong idea, what do you think about that phenomenon?
Well, I have to say that certain political parties are very, very good about turning politically correct into a disparaging term. And the same with feminism. People are brilliant about using that word as a weapon. And just the same as with bitch, we just have to take it back. It's about equality between the sexes. If you believe that men and women are equal, then you are a feminist. And there is nothing wrong with calling yourself that. So it's a game that especially the patriarchs in the Republican Party play very, very well. And they have to be called on it. It's amazing how defensive you can get about the word feminism. We shouldn't be fighting that battle anymore. And we have to acknowledge that that was very clever of them. But they can't get away with it.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so we're actually coming to the end of our time. That was quite quick, actually. Yeah, we've almost gone an hour. Imagine that. So maybe one or two more questions. So my next question is, putting a stop to violence against women seems to be something close to your heart, Alexandra, and you are very kindly supporting the Pixel Project and the Reach for Pixels campaign. So can you just tell us why you support this cause?
Support the cause to end violence against women. It's like asking why we freed, we ended slavery. It's like, it's an atrocity. It's an atrocity that no civilized person should allow to be happening. So ending it, that should be everybody's. That should be just the same as breathing. Any deep inequality like that, violence against anyone, we should be ending it. Of course we should. It's just another, I just can't wrap my brain around people who would not want to.
Mm-hmm. Or people who don't see anything wrong happening. That's just weird, isn't it? Yeah.
That's an amazing blindness, but I suppose that yeah, I don't understand, but yes.
Yeah, okay. So we've had an intense discussion, so I think I will ask a little bit of a lighter question, which is, do you have any tips or advice for any aspiring authors out there, any of your fans who might be watching?
Oh, well, that's actually, that's not a very light question.
Okay.
but if you need tips on writing, first of all, I have a blog, a whole blog on it, and 3 writing workbooks that you can get all my best advice, which is better than anything that I could say right here. But honestly, I think I will quote somebody who has really inspired me, the author, crime author, Denise Mina, who I heard say in a convention once, really think about writing what makes you angry. Write about what makes you angry, because the passion of that will give you an amazing narrative and set of characters. And I took that advice I actually think that I came up with the entire idea of the Huntress main thrillers because of what she said. Because it doesn't take 1 second for me to figure out what makes me angry. Violence against women, violence against children, that kind of inequality, that kind of cruelty. And I knew that I could bring that passion to endless numbers of books about that subject. And it defined my mission for me. So because that was so useful to me, I'll just pass that advice on to anyone else, that anger is a great motivator for writing. You will be angry if you're writing. It's not an easy thing to do. So why not harness that to your benefit?
Good advice. Okay, one last question. I think we have time for just one quick question. We've been talking about basically role models in fiction and in real life, and how people can gain inspiration from them and how to behave. So, who would you say, Alexandra, is your role model?
Well, just this week, since you're asking this, I found it absolutely thrilling and amazing how the 3 female justices of the Supreme Court just took control of the whole reproductive rights debate, and they just did not let any bullshit happen going on there. If you have to censor me for that one, then go ahead and bleep me out. But watching them take that down legally, morally, was just, it was awe-inspiring. So I have to say, yeah, it's the female Supreme Court right now that's rocking my world.
Awesome. Okay, and actually that brings us to the end of our session. That was a really good discussion, Alexandra. Thank you so much for that.
You've been fantastic. Thank you so much for your question.
Well, thank you. Okay, so guys who are watching, I promised that I would tell you about the goodies that Alexandra has given us to put on our Indiegogo page, and how you can get your hands on them. So let me just tell you once again what these awesome things are. So Alexandra has donated 2 special goodie bags. Each of them has 7 of Alexandra's books. That's 3 of the Hunters FBI series in paperback and 4 of our haunted thrillers in hardcover. And all these books are signed by Alexandra. There's 1 bundle of 7 books for a US donor and 1 for a UK donor. And the next thing is a very special bundle for authors out there. It consists of a signed copy of Alexandra's workbook, Screenwriting Tricks for Authors Stealing Hollywood, plus a 30-minute Skype session to discuss 1 chapter of your work in progress or any other writing issue you want to talk about with Alexandra. Those are awesome things. And so here is how you can get your hands on the stuff. So here are the links that you have to that you can go to. Our Indiegogo page is is.gd/r4p Indiegogo IWD 2016. So you go there and all of Alexandra's goodies are listed out there, and you can pick which one you want, and you just have to donate to get your hands on them. Now, if you don't have a credit card, you only have PayPal, you can still help us and donate. Go to is.gd/r4p-razoo IWD 2016. And you can get an ebook copy of On the Loom of Fates by Gwendolyn Alexandra, who is a New Orleans-based poet and a survivor of childhood abuse. Her poetry tackles misogyny in classical Greek mythology, which is really interesting. So please do give generously. All funds go towards the Pixel Project Celebrity Male Role Model Pixel Reveal campaign to help end violence against women. If you want to learn more about Read for Pixel sessions and all the other author sessions that we have coming up, please go to is.gd/readforpixels. And if you want to find out more about violence against women in general and what you can do about it, visit the Pixel Project's website, which is pixelproject.net. Yeah, so that's it. And all that's left for me to do is thank everybody who's been watching. Thank you, Alexandra, for being here. Thank you once again for the awesome discussion that we had. I think we all learned a lot from you today. You gave us a lot of things to think about, definitely. Yeah, so thanks, everybody. Have a good day or a good night wherever you are in the world. And goodbye.